Okay, we're good.
Okay. And according to my clock, it is 1 o'clock. So, I will call this meeting to order. Let's see. Let's do attendance. Tim? Present. Bob?
Present.
Brad?
Present.
Donna is here and Teresa is out today. Next on the agenda, we've got approval of the meeting minutes and agenda. We have a motion.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
We have a
Second.
second. Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Any opposed? No? Okay. Minutes approved. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That would be everybody. So, great. Do we have, next one is citizen comments. There's nobody else here in the room. Jenny, do we have anyone online?
If you'd like to make a comment online, please send me a message in the chat or raise your hand and I will call on you. Okay, I think we're good.
Okay. Moving on to reports. Doesn't look like Mark is here. He's on.
Oh, he's online.
online? Awesome.
Yes, he's
Okay.
here.
Great. I can't quite see from.
From this seat, this is a bad seat to see the screen spread. Oh, and my mic just said.
Oh, let me switch it.
Was that my cue, Jandy?
Yes, that was your cue. Thanks, Mark.
Okay, all right. Sorry about not being able to be there in person. We've got the flu running through the house, so I'm under the weather with that. But Jandy asked me to brief you all on the budget question that arose during a council meeting a while back, and we had committed as staff to come back within the first quarter of the new fiscal year and kind of propose some recommended changes or not to the library ordinance regarding the budget allocation. And so I just wanted to give you a quick update. We've had several discussions among staff, and we really don't believe that there is a structural problem with the way that the ordinance is constructed with respect to the budget. At some point in time in the past, as you all know, they landed on the 23.8% number with respect to the budget, and that is what we have essentially carried forward. The sticking point last year, and I think that the main thing that we just want to get some consensus among council on, is the phrase in section 3 of the ordinance, which is section 3, paragraph A. It says in 2001, 50 cents per thousand represented 23.8% of the city's total property tax levy rate. Said percentage shall be the percentage used by the city in establishing library funding for future years, subject to the terms set forth in this ordinance. As you may remember, there was some dispute about what total property tax levy rate meant. We have always interpreted that to mean the net property tax levy, not the gross property tax levy. And so we really believe it's just a simple matter of getting council consensus to adopt that definition. It's the net property tax levy. And so if we use that, we're golden, because we can go back and show that every year going back to 2012, which is, I believe, when the last change was made prior to this most recent change, the council adopted the budget unanimously, save maybe 1 year, with that rate established, or with that percentage established. In addition to that, as you may remember, we talked about as well, in the same ordinance in section 2, paragraph B, the ordinance provides council the option of increasing, decreasing any portion of the total appropriation. And so in any given year, if there's a request for new programming or some kind of capital expenditure that would be specific to the library or something like that, through the budget making process, council is free to make a decision to increase that appropriation above that 23.8%. And in similar fashion, if there was a reason to decrease it for some reason, like we got to, if the law changed and the property tax cap went up, which incidentally, the bill that was floating around the legislature to do that this year is not getting out of committee. So that won't happen this year, but I'm pretty confident that that will continue to be part of the discussions in the legislature. Assuming something like that happens, council could make the decision to decrease the appropriation. And so you've got that flexibility already in the ordinance. And so from a staff perspective, we think the ordinance is fine. We don't think there's a structural problem with the ordinance. And so we're not going to recommend changing it. The only thing we're going to recommend doing is bringing consensus to that definition of the total property tax levy rate. And I realize that's a lot. I'll stop here and allow anyone to ask any questions if you have any.
Mark, has anyone from the council made any proposed changes to the way that reads the 28%, or how they would like it to read?
No, the request was, or the directive was, for staff to go back and do some research and bring forward some recommendations on ways to either change that clause or not. And so council, as a body or individuals on council, have not made any recommendations to this point.
Mark, this is Bob. If I'm hearing you right, the language already says net property tax levy. And so doesn't that accomplish what they were arguing about in terms of the what's in TIF and what's not in TIF?
Yeah, so the way it reads right now, Bob, is it says 23.8% of the city's total property tax levy rate. And so for whatever reason, that word total, there was an attempt to kind of define that as minus the distribution to TIF. And that's not how we've ever interpreted it. And that's not how we interpreted it going into 2024 as we were preparing the budget.
Okay, so, but just clarifying it to be net basically is the same interpretation that you've been using all along.
Absolutely.
So we are not at risk unless they can't figure out the difference between net and gross.
Correct. And like I said, before this past year, that wasn't an issue. We never even had that come up. And so I would just, as opposed to going back in and opening the ordinance back up, I would, again, recommend that council just, whether that's through a resolution, I hope we don't have to do it through that, but, or just an agreement, a vote agreement that they're going to interpret total property tax levy rate as the net versus the gross.
Are there any other departments or functions of the city that have that similar language of a specific percent?
No.
Okay. That may be where they get tripped up, but.
Yeah, and this was put in as a protection, back, I think it was 2012 or whenever it was, so that funding didn't dip below that number. Mm-hmm. And that's, that's a fine strategy. As we've discussed before, if I was building an ordinance from the ground up, I wouldn't earmark a specific percentage, but it's in there. And so, again, going back to staff's discussions, we don't think there's a structural problem. We just think we need to clarify that the total property tax levy rate means net, not gross.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thanks, Mark.
Any other questions? And that really is the extent of my report, Mrs. Chair.
Make you feel better.
Yeah,
That's
Thank
you,
you.
Shauna.
thank you. All right, Bob, back, to you for Friends of Liberty Lake.
Well, I don't have anything to report since I wasn't at the last Friends meeting because I'm down in sunny 63-degree Oracle, Arizona. So unless if Brad was at the meeting, maybe he could add some comments, or I'll have to lean on our lovely library director, Jandy, because she or somebody from her staff was probably at the meeting.
Well, I'll try, Bob. I don't know that I can even remember anything. I didn't make, I've been kind of in a fog, so I didn't really make notes for any of that. So Kim was there. The most important thing, there was a donation that Dan Dunn made to the library out of his leftover campaign funds, which he's allowed to do. And it was a donation amount of $300 to the Friends of the Library, which is a pretty nice donation. So it was a pretty short meeting. Jandy, you want to tell them anything, add anything else that significant? I can't think of anything significant.
I don't feel like there was a whole lot of,
No, it was the donation and,
it was a pretty light meeting. I think we were only there for 30 minutes.
I know
It was a very short meeting again. It was just kind of a, like the beginning of the year, kind of get things established with a new president and those kinds of things. So.
So nobody even missed Pat and I.
Oh, yes, we know, that was noticed right away. Where's Pat and Bob? They wanted to know the answer to that question. So we let them know you were in sunny California, no, sunny Arizona.
Yeah.
Soaking up the sun.
Trying. It's actually been as warm there as it was here.
Brad, that was telling.
Okay, well, that's all there really is to report on the Friends, except that they're going to be gearing up here. There's a Friends meeting regarding the soiree. That'll be the biggest push here now, going into the summer months, and the book sale again in June during
Is the date set soiree? Yeah.
during the
It's the middle of
garage
July.
sale.
I have it in phone.
Pardon?
It's just, if any of you knew offhand what the date for the soiree was.
I have it in here.
Soiree is on July 17th.
Okay. Just want to make sure I get it on my calendar. Oh, it's such a great event.
fine, yeah.
Okay, thank you for that update. As far as city council goes, they had a workshop to discuss the potential ordinance change or regulatory change on the Open sort of Transparency Act of how agendas and meetings are held. I know they had, let me open my notes on that. They had talked about having like 5 days notice with agenda, and any policies or regulatory changes in that agenda also. Mark had recommended making that 72 hours instead of 5 days, just because it can be a little difficult sometimes to gather all the information from all the pertinent people that far in advance of a meeting. Having all public meetings have a virtual meeting option, all public meetings are recorded and available on YouTube or whatever feature option there is. And any, I've lumped this in with the agenda. The notices, the policy changes or proposals that are going to be discussed are made available as part of the agenda packet. They recommended adoption by resolution instead of ordinance. Because it's harder they may need to go back and clean things up, and it's really just that much harder to change an ordinance than a resolution. A lot of these rules are already there in existing policies, so modifying it in a single resolution wouldn't be too difficult. So we already follow pretty much most of that. I don't think it'll really have much effect. The only thing we'll have to watch out for is making sure if we're going to be discussing any policy or proposals, that makes it into the agenda packet that gets uploaded prior. So, I don't know that, I forgot the stuffed cat was up there and I looked up, oh my God, the cat's back. Sorry. Non sequitur. So that I think is from the city council meetings, the past two, the thing that pertains most to the library board.
Yeah, the only other thing was, we did have on the agenda last meeting to get our Washington Anytime Libraries purchase approved. So every year we have to pay the state for that, and it's $11,000, so it's over the cap. And so the city council has to approve that, and it went through seamlessly, no questions. So it is a yearly expense for us, so I don't think they're surprised when they see it.
Yeah, perfect.
So.
Anything else, during city council or the meeting, anything I know? Not hearing any, we will move on to GNB.
Okay. So the first thing I had to mention is, has everyone heard about the Post Falls Library flood?
Yeah,
Okay, so they, their pipes froze in the ceiling and they had, catastrophic water damage is what the report said. And so very devastating. They're probably gonna be closed like 4 to 6 months. Because of that, we are having higher traffic at the library. I actually pulled the numbers for January this morning. Last year, let's see, sorry, I'm pulling up our last year number just to make sure I got it right. So last year in January, we had, our visitors were 4,839. Our visitors in January of this year were 15,899.
and that happened like.
I like triple checked the number because I kept thinking it was wrong.
Did I hear that right? Did you say 15,000?
Yes, 899, almost 16,000.
That's triple.
Yes,
And that flood didn't happen until
it was in January.
mid-January. It was the long weekend.
So I don't think that that's the only
It might be
contribution.
the cold, that cold snap also, is people trying to get out of the house, but oh my gosh.
Yes, so we have been getting more books in shipment. We have been seeing more people through the door. Some of them are Post Falls. But we have had the busiest month at the library.
Wow.
Yes, story time. We've had the parking lot completely full. We've had people parking on the street, people parking at the police station, people parking at the Legacy Church.
Wow.
You'll go into story time, the room will be completely full, and the children's room will be completely full of people. It's been insane. So we've had a super busy month at the library as far as patrons. The interesting thing is, I was pulled up our checkouts to see if our checkouts went up astronomical. They're only at 400.
Huh.
So people are using the library. Not everyone is using it for books, or people aren't checking out more books at least. So we're up some, but not triple
No, but
as
it's
far as checkouts.
acting as a
Story time.
community center.
Yes, so our story time has been absolutely insane. And we are getting more people coming through, books coming through shipment because, you know, we are the closest library to Post Falls.
Yeah.
So our old shelf has been pretty stuffed.
Wow.
So it's been a very busy month.
Do we, know what, I'm just curious what the average is at Post Falls if, I'm sure some of those people are probably going to Coeur d'Alene, some people are coming here.
Yeah, Coeur d'Alene has said they've been seeing people, and Hayden has been saying that they've been seeing people as well. So people are spreading out
Yeah,
between the 3 libraries.
wow. Yeah, a number of schools in the Post Falls district also have pipes burst in that same weekend. And so that is something to consider in the new building, something to take in. The library, the Post Falls Library did not have the fire alarms that alerted the fire department when a pipe burst, but the schools did.
Mhm.
So when the schools pipes burst, it alerted the fire department, who was able to come and turn off the water and do some immediate cleanup. But, that did not happen at the library. So it's rare that we get a cold spell like that bursts pipes, but it's something that the city, I hope, will take into consideration when they are looking at retrofitting the new building, because a water damage like that will take out the whole collection.
So I know that they were, when we had the engineering firm last summer, they were looking at everything for fire safety and that sort of stuff to bring everything up to code. So I'm sure that was a consideration, but we'll triple check when we're doing ours.
Yeah, because it was another library too. It wasn't just Post Falls.
It's Athol.
Apple.
It's just that
They're too
theirs
far.
was from the
Yeah.
ground up,
Oh,
whereas with Post Falls, it was from the ceiling down. And so it was less,
It's terrible.
Catastrophic.
But
yes,
in Alaska, the 2018 earthquake, my friends had pipes burst in their classroom and all of the book, I mean, same thing. It's terrible.
yeah.
It's devastating. There's everything doing.
yeah,
Thanks.
Is there, because they're part of CIM,
yes.
is CIM planning on anything as far as, I know insurance covers some of it.
Oh,
but-
so they're with Community Library Network.
Yeah.
They said in the press release that they have full coverage.
Good.
So they have to pay $2,000 for their book.
Nice.
Because you have separate policies in the library. You have policies over your books and materials, and then your equipment and your building itself. So they have to pay out $2,000 on both policies. So it's gonna cost them $4,000, and they said the damage to the building is like $700,000 or something. So that's a good deal. That's why you have insurance.
Yeah.
Is so that you only have to pay $2,000 and not $700,000.
Low deductible too.
So, and then for their books, they'll only have to pay $2,000, but I know it was, they said there's books that are just irreplaceable.
Yeah, you've got
So-
local and as most insurance works, I'm sure it's similar in this instance in that, you know, you can't buy as many books with the same.
With the money,
With the money.
especially because in the last year, the book prices have gone up.
Yeah.
More so than I'd seen in the past 8 years,
You know,
so.
you've got a 10-year-old book, they're gonna value that, but you have to replace it with a brand new book, so.
Mhm.
And so are you seeing that increased story time during February as well? I mean, is it?
Yes.
maintaining?
Yes,
And
yeah,
do you have
yeah.
enough people? Do you need some volunteers for that time or?
We're doing okay. It's just one of those things where we're watching it to see if we need to add an additional story time. It's just one of those things where it's tricky because we open at 10 and most people want it in the morning
Sure.
before naps and that sort of thing. So it's like, do we switch one at 10 and 11? So we're monitoring it to see if we need to add an additional story time to kind of help with the crowd control because it's been very busy.
Oh,
Wow.
that's a lot of little ones.
Yes, we're happy they're using
In a
the
small
library.
space.
But we got our windows replaced this last month as well in January. They look beautiful. Come see them if you haven't seen them yet. The maintenance crew's working on getting blinds. But at this point, we're hoping to have the windows open a lot of the time. And they're also gonna be doing, quarterly window cleaning and carpet cleaning. So we get our carpets cleaned quarterly. They're going to add, they hired a new company that does both, so they're gonna do both to keep our windows looking beautiful. So,
Nice.
yes, with the sprinklers, you know,
Yeah.
just, it's all gross. The next thing I had is, the company that we go through for our library calendar is called Demco. And we've been using them for our a calendar of events, our registration and our meeting rooms. And they are discontinuing the product in August. So we're looking at getting a new calendar, system. We found two products that we like the best. So we're gonna be doing, a demo and quotes and then making a decision. It ends in August. But we are hoping to get something implemented in April before summer, because that's our busiest time of the year, and we don't want to worry about calendar software and that sort of thing.
Makes
So,
total sense.
yes. The next thing, I was at my library conference in Tacoma last week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We had a presentation from the Library Capital Improvements Program, which is the thing that I've mentioned to you guys several times about how when you're doing a library remodel project, you can get a matching grant. And so, couple of interesting things. You have to apply for the grant cycle every 2 years. I thought it was each year.
Yeah.
So it is every 2 years. I spoke with the program coordinator, so she helps with the applications. She doesn't help with like picking. They have a whole committee that picks. But I was talking over our project with her, giving her the background. The interesting thing I learned from her is, we may already have fulfilled the match requirement by because the city purchased a $2 million building.
Wow.
So she said, I'm not 100% positive, but we may have already fulfilled our match. So I had kind of assumed that we would have to figure out what our design was, go to the city council and be like, we can apply for this grant. If you give this much, they will give this much and get a match.
Well, because they've already given the money to purchase the building.
We might already have our match fulfilled.
That'd be amazing.
So the grant application is due in April of this year. And then the next grant cycle will be 2 years from now. So we are going to attempt to apply for our grant in April. So that is going to be my big project for the next 2 months, is applying for that grant. We also are working on our RFQ for the project manager. With the application, it's kind of like the more you have, the better.
Yeah.
And so we don't have a design for a building right now, so that's not the greatest. But I'm hoping if we can at least submit, this is our project, this is our application for our project manager, this is our timeline that we're looking at, that will help with our application.
Yeah.
And we also do have our match potentially, which for more rural libraries is the challenging piece. So I don't think we have the 100% solid, strongest application, but like, I'm not just gonna leave the money on the table.
No.
So, what I'm hoping, that we can kind of focus on as a board over the next 2 months is me writing stuff out and getting your feedback and your input, on those applications, so that we can get that submitted the beginning of April.
Does the city have someone on staff who's a grant writer?
We don't have a grant writer, on city staff. But Lisa and her team in the PEPS department, engineering and building, they do a lot of these applications. So Amy sent me over one that they did for Trailhead, that was their project manager RFQ. I had been working from a different one that I had found for a library that wasn't perfect. This one also wasn't perfect, but it's like, I feel like with the two, I have a better cohesive, at least RFQ for this project manager.
Cause I've written school grants, so.
Yes. So I figured, because we have a lot of educators and a lawyer, and people in business, I'm like,
Yeah.
I figure we have a good resource. And so, I'm probably gonna be emailing you being like, hey, can you help me with this specific thing? Or what do you guys think about this? And kind of just put our heads together on this, because it is a short deadline. But me and Mark are also planning on meeting and going through different things together, and then, yeah.
Do they have examples of other successful grant applications for you to look at?
That's a good question. I know they had a list of people who have, successfully gotten grants. And several of them I do know personally,
Okay, so maybe they'll share with you, because I know some organizations will have
successful.
examples of successful grant applications for
Okay.
you to use.
Well,
That would be good to know too.
and one, reaching out to people you know.
Yes.
To see what they submitted into, it's probably all public records.
That's true too.
Yeah.
Yes.
You just might have to request it officially instead of it being like posted on the
Yeah.
website.
Yeah.
Yay.
So that was just a quick turn of events. Was like, oh, I thought I had until next year. I don't, but oh, we might already have our match, which is also a very tricky piece.
Yeah,
So, yes.
Awesome. Do we have a, report to the council coming up?
So our next report is, I'm planning on doing March 19th, the same day that we're having that ordinance budget discussion. I was hoping to get a volunteer to help me with that report.
Oh, I'm hoping that.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you,
So-
Kim, because I'm still gonna be in Arizona.
I'll help too, Jandy. I'll help you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, we should be good to go on that then as well. Okay. So that's everything that I had for my report, which was a
great,
lot.
yeah, that was,
A lot. Thanks, Jandy.
That's exciting news, yeah.
okay, next up is item 5 on the agenda, the 2024 policy review. And that is separate from the action item of the public comment policy, but
So my previous plan had been to discuss 3 different policies and pick which one we were gonna research this month. I would rather just focus on our grant application and our RFQ. So if that's okay with everyone, that's what I will be reaching out to you about this month. And then also, Kim and Brad talking with you about our quarterly reports. And then in April, after we get that part underway, looking at another policy to review. I
I'm
didn't
all-
feel like there was anything on there that was detrimental. Yes.
I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
Absolutely.
yeah, I agree, that especially because we've hit most of the urgent policy changes that we felt we really needed to address. And so the ones that are left for review can wait until after this grant application gets through.
Yes.
Well, then I think it only gives us the one policy that you have to present as part of the council presentation as well, right?
Yes, so if that gets approved today, that'll, we can present on that at the March meeting as well.
That would kind of test the waters with how much they're paying attention. I didn't say that. That was another voice behind me.
Okay, so instead of reviewing future policies, we will postpone, or which other policies we want to review at future meetings, we will revisit that as an agenda topic after the April deadline for the grant application, and we'll spend the next couple of meetings. The business will be reviewing that grant application and working with Jandy on answers and data and information. Perfect,
Yes.
great. Are there any other items for business before we move on to action items? No, okay. So the action item we have here, and everybody should have received the public comment policy with red lines in it, is to approve or amend.
Let me just get the policy on the screen so everyone can see it. Cause we have our whole 2 red lines. I don't want the audience members to be able to see them. Okay, so we have our two changes, which was changing it, any member of the audience may address the board during public comment period, not a public comment period. So that we can do, public comment at the beginning and ending of meetings. And then a sign-up register will be available at the entrance to the meeting room for persons wishing to address the board and not the boardroom. So those are our two, changes to the policy.
Great, I think we need a motion before we can discuss.
Oh, sorry, was I?
No, I think that's, we haven't started discussion, maybe we're just opening up what it was we were going to. So do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, moved, it sounded like Brad seconded. Or is there any discussion? No? Okay, not hearing any. We'll move forward with the vote. All those in favor of approving the public comment policy as provided in the agenda, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Great, motion passes. The new, the changes to the public comment policy, are approved. So we will, given that it's now the new process with the council, Jandy will prepare that with the agenda items that will go to the city council for the March report,
March 19th, yes.
19th report that, that the board will be making.
Great.
Anything else? I think that's it. Our next meeting of the board is March 13th. Is there anyone who has a problem with that date? No? Okay.
As long as I can dial in, I'm good.
Yeah, it says in person and virtually via Zoom. It's, so we're good here. All right, well, I think we can adjourn then.
Thank you,
So
Sean.
moved.
Bob, move to adjourn.
Awesome.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?